This kid surprises a millionaire and says, "Uncle, he's going to use the belt again." The millionaire is startled when a man arrives saying he heard everything and being violent. Comment on what you think will happen. Your opinion is very important. And subscribe to my channel to support my work. Your help is very important. The rain lashed the streets of upstate Willow Creek that afternoon in March, turning the small town in rural Iowa into a melancholic scene. Outside Ma and Pa's diner, the most upscale establishment in the area, Lily, a girl of only 6, shivered in the cold as she watched people hurrying out, sheltering under their expensive umbrellas. Her soaked clothes clung to her thin body, and her dark brown hair, tangled by the water, streamed over her delicate face. Her large brown eyes, carrying a sadness beyond her years, fixed on a man leaving the diner. It was Ted North, 45, owner of the largest organic food company in the region. Lily took a deep breath, gathering all the courage her small body could muster. She couldn't go home without money. Not today. Her stepfather Julian had been drinking again, and she knew what that meant. "Mister, please." Her trembling voice barely audible above the rain. "He's gonna use the belt again." Ted, who was about to get into his luxury car, stopped abruptly. There was something in the child's tone that made him turn around. That's when he noticed the marks on her arms, partially exposed by the wet sleeve of her blouse that had slipped down. "Good heavens, kiddo, what happened to you?" Ted approached, crouching down to her level. His umbrella now shielded both of them from the relentless rain. Lily took a step back, startled by the sudden closeness. Her eyes, however, couldn't hide the hunger and despair. Just need a few bucks, mister, please." Her small, cold hands extended in supplication. Ted felt his heart clench. In his 45 years of life, having built an empire from scratch, he thought he had seen it all. But something about this child touched him deeply. "Are you hungry? Let me help you. We can go inside and—" "Lily!" A shout cut through the air like thunder. Julian, 38, emerged from around the corner, staggering. His red face and aggressive posture betrayed his intoxicated state. "What did I tell you about begging, you little brat?" Ted instinctively placed himself between the man and the child. "Sir, your daughter is cold and hungry. Let me help." "Don't need your charity, Rich." "Oh boy." Julian spat the words with contempt. "Come on, Lily, now!" The girl, trembling even more, began to move away from Ted. Her eyes, however, silently pleaded for help. "Wait!" Ted tried to stop him, but Julian had already grabbed Lily's arm forcefully, dragging her down the wet street. "Stay out of it. Fancy pants." The look Julian gave Ted was more than threatening. It was a clear warning to stay away. Ted stood frozen on the sidewalk, watching helplessly as father and daughter disappeared into the rain. The muffled cry of pain from the girl echoed in his ears, mingling with the sound of the storm. Inside his car, his hands trembled on the steering wheel. The images wouldn't leave his head. The frightened eyes, the marks on her arms, the silent despair of that child. Something had to be done. He picked up his cell phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in a long time. After 3 rings, a raspy voice answered. "Ernie, it's Ted North. I need a favor. Remember you told me you still had contacts from your days as a private investigator. I need to find someone, a girl and her father. It's urgent." On the other end of the line, Ernie Costa, 55, his current driver and former private investigator, hesitated before answering. "Sure thing, Mr. North. But are you sure you want to get involved in this?" "Never been so sure of anything in my life, Ernie. That child needs help." Ted looked out the window in the direction Lily had disappeared. "And I won't be able to sleep until I do something." What Ted didn't know was that this seemingly chance encounter outside the diner was about to trigger a series of events that would forever change not only his life, but the lives of everyone involved. And that Ernie, His loyal driver harbored secrets far deeper than anyone could imagine. That same night, as the storm continued to batter the small town, Lily huddled on her thin mattress on the floor of a shack on the outskirts. Silent tears mingled with the rainwater dripping from the leaky roof. From the other room she could hear Julian grumbling, opening another bottle. The girl hugged her knees, trying to make herself even smaller. Her thoughts returned to that man from the diner, the first in a long time to really look at her, to show genuine concern. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to dream that he would come back to save her, but Lily had already learned in her few years of life that dreams rarely come true. What she didn't know was that at that very moment, Ted North was setting in motion a series of events that would bring to light long-buried secrets, secrets that connected their lives in ways that no one could imagine. The next morning, Ted's office at the organic food factory reflected his restlessness. Important documents awaited his signature, but he couldn't concentrate. The images from the night before haunted him. Lily's frightened eyes, the marks on her arms, the terror in her voice when her father appeared.
And then came out
Ted asked anxiously. The man's name is Julian Rogers, 38 years old, lives in a shack at the end of Shady Acres, the poorest part of town, has a complicated history, lost everything 2 years ago when his little grocery store went belly up. His wife left him around the same time, started drinking, took out loans with loan sharks. And the girl, Ernie hesitated, a strange glint passing through his eyes. Lily isn't his biological daughter, was informally adopted 5 years ago when she was just 1 year old. The biological mother, she what, Ernie? Her name was Olivia Sanders. Was an employee at your factory, sir. Worked in quality control. Ted felt his blood run cold. She disappeared mysteriously 5 years ago. No one knows what happened. Julian, who at the time still owned the grocery store, ended up taking care of the girl. He was a different man back then from what I've gathered. The adoption wasn't official, but he took good care of her in the early years. Ted stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the factory yard. His mind raced. A missing former employee, an abandoned child. Why didn't he know any of this? I need to talk to someone who knew Olivia, someone who worked with her. Most of the employees from that time aren't here anymore, sir. There was a major overhaul in her department shortly after her disappearance. Something in Ernie's tone made Ted turn around. Are you hiding something from me? The former investigator averted his gaze. No, sir, just maybe it's better not to stir up the past too much. A child is suffering, Ernie, and apparently her mother, my former employee, disappeared without a trace. How can I ignore that? Before Ernie could answer, Carol hurried into the room. Mr. North, there's an urgent call. It's Dr. Irene Bloom. Ted froze at the sound of that name. Irene, his ex-wife, the renowned child psychologist he hadn't seen in 3 years since their turbulent divorce. Why would she be calling? He muttered more to himself. You can leave, Carol. I'll take it here. He picked up the phone with a strange feeling in his stomach. Irene. Ted. The familiar voice on the other end of the line sounded strained. We need to talk. It's about a girl named Lily. How do you... She's in my office right now. A social worker brought her in. Ted. The situation is serious. Very serious. Ted's heart raced. I'm coming right now. He hung up the phone and grabbed his jacket. Ernie, keep investigating. I want to know everything about Olivia Sanders' disappearance. And when I say everything, I mean everything. In Irene's office, located in an elegant building downtown, Lily was sitting in a colorful armchair, hugging a teddy bear bigger than herself. Her face showed recent marks and her eyes were red from crying. Irene Bloom, 42, watched the girl with professional concern. In 20 years of practice as a child psychologist, few cases had touched her so deeply. When the social worker brought Lily in, telling her about the anonymous report of abuse, her heart clenched. Ted's arrival was announced by the secretary. Irene took a deep breath, preparing for the reunion. 3 years had passed since they last saw each other, since that final argument about their inability to have children, about treatments that didn't work, about dreams that shattered. "Where is she?" Ted asked as soon as he entered, without formal greetings. "In the therapy room, Ted." Irene stopped him before he could proceed. "What happened last night? The social worker mentioned you made the report. I found her on the street, Irene. She was begging for money, hurt, scared. Her father showed up drunk, dragged her away. I couldn't let it go." Irene nodded. "You did well to report it. But there's something you need to know before you see her. The situation is more complex than it seems. Lily isn't talking much, but what little I've managed to get. Ted, she mentioned your factory." "Yes, I just found out. Her biological mother worked there. It's not just that. Lily said something about her mother having discovered bad things at the factory before she disappeared. She overheard Julian saying that once, when he was drunk." Ted felt the floor fall out from under him. "What kind of bad things?" "I don't know. She's too young to understand." But Irene hesitated. "There's more. Julian has disappeared." "What do you mean?" "When the social worker went to the shack this morning, she found no one. The neighbors said he left early in the morning with Lily. She was found alone, crying near the municipal market. No sign of him." At this moment, a sharp scream came from the therapy room. Ted and Irene ran to it, finding Lily huddled in a corner, trembling. "He'll be back," she sobbed. "He always comes back." Irene approached slowly, using her professional experience. "It's okay, honey. You're safe here." But Lily remained in a panic. "No, I'm not. No one is. He said, there are bad people looking for me, people who hurt my mom." Ted and Irene exchanged worried glances. What initially seemed like a case of child abuse was beginning to reveal deeper and more disturbing layers. "What bad people, Lily?" Irene asked gently. The girl hugged the teddy bear even tighter. "I don't know. But Daddy Julian said that's why we always have to be ready to run. He's protecting me in his own way." Lily's words fell like bombs in the silence of the room. Ted felt a chill down his spine. Could Julian's violent behavior not just be the result of alcoholism and debt? Was there something else, something related to Olivia's disappearance? And more importantly, what secrets did his own factory hold that could have caused the disappearance of a mother and the suffering of an innocent child? Outside Irene's office, hidden in his car, Ernie Costa watched the activity with a tormented expression. In his hands, an old photo showed him younger, next to Olivia Sanders. On the back, a handwritten message. "Thank you for helping me uncover the truth. If anything happens to me, protect my daughter." Ernie put the photo away with trembling hands. The past he had tried so hard to bury was about to resurface, and this time there was no stopping it. Dusk tinged the sky of Willow Creek with orange hues when Ted finally left Irene's office. Lily had been temporarily taken to a municipal shelter, a decision that weighed on his heart like lead. The girl cried copiously as she was separated from them, clinging to Irene's legs in desperation. "Don't leave me, Auntie, please!" The little girl's cries still echoed in his ears. Irene was also visibly shaken. During the hours they spent together, Ted observed how his ex-wife handled the situation with professional mastery, even if her eyes betrayed her own anguish. It was impossible not to remember their frustrated attempts to have children, the nights of crying after each negative result. "We need to find Julian," Irene said, approaching his car. "There's something very wrong with this whole story, Ted. The way Lily talked about him, it's complex. There's fear, yes, but also gratitude, as if he was really trying to protect her from something worse," Ted completed, running his hands over his tired face. "But from what? And why run now?" "Maybe because you showed up." Ernie's voice came from behind them, startling them both. The driver held a thick folder of documents. "Sir, I've found out more things. Things we need to discuss in private." Irene made to step away, but Ted held her arm. "Stay. You're already involved in this. And frankly, I need your professional perspective." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. The three drove to a nearby diner, practically empty at that hour. They chose a secluded table where Ernie began to spread out documents. "Olivia Sanders didn't disappear out of nowhere," he began, his voice low and tense. "In the weeks before she vanished, she was investigating something at the factory, something related to the chemical waste disposal sector." "How do you know this?" Ted questioned, frowning. Ernie swallowed hard, pulling an old photo from his pocket, the same one he had been looking at earlier. "Because she asked me for help." The silence that followed was heavy. Ted took the photo with trembling hands, observing his younger driver, next to a beautiful woman with dark hair and eyes identical to Lily's. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I was a coward," Ernie admitted, his voice choked. "When Olivia started discovering irregularities, she came to me. She knew about my past as an investigator. She showed me documents, photos. Someone was illegally dumping toxic waste into the Willow Creek River. But it wasn't a small operation. There were big people involved." "Big people like who?" Irene asked, leaning forward. "Like Randy Wallace, Mr. North's partner." Ted felt like he had been punched in the stomach. Randy had been his partner for 15 years, responsible for all the operational aspects of the factory while he took care of the expansion of the business. "That's impossible," he murmured, but without much conviction. "Olivia had..." "And proof," Ernie continued. "Records of suspicious transactions, photos of the nighttime dumping, employee testimonies. She planned to report everything. Then, a week before she disappeared, she gave me this." He pulled a crumpled manila envelope from inside the folder. Inside was a handwritten letter and a flash drive. "Why didn't you come to me at the time?" Ted asked, his voice mixing anger and disbelief. "They bought me off," Ernie admitted, tears streaming down his wrinkled face. "Randy found out that Olivia was using me as an informant. He offered me money to keep quiet. I had debts. My wife was sick. I convinced myself it wasn't my fight." "And Olivia?" Irene pressed gently. "What happened to her?" "I don't know for sure. The last time I saw her, she was terrified. She said they were following her. She planned to run away with Lily, but..." He choked. The next morning, she had disappeared. The girl was found crying at the door of Julian's grocery store. "And why did he keep her?" Ted questioned. "Because Olivia trusted him. Julian was one of the few who knew what she was investigating. His grocery store was a meeting point for them, where they exchanged information. He promised to protect Lily until Olivia came back." "But she never came back," Irene completed softly. "No. And now, with Mr. North showing up..." Ernie hesitated. "Julian must have panicked. Maybe he thinks you've found something, that you're going to try to take Lily away from him." At this moment, Ted's cell phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. "Abandoned church on Shady Acres, midnight. Come alone if you want to know the truth about Olivia. No cops." "It's him," Ted murmured, showing the message to the others. "You can't go alone," Irene protested immediately. "It's too dangerous." "I have to go," It's our only chance to understand what's really happening. Then I'm going with you, she declared firmly. Irene, don't argue, Ted. I'm the only person here with whom Lily has created some bond of trust. If Julian is with her, we're going to need that. Ernie cleared his throat, drawing their attention. There's one more thing you need to know. Randy has been making frequent visits to a private clinic on the outskirts of town. A psychiatric clinic. And what does that have to do with our story? Ted asked. Maybe nothing, but Ernie hesitated. Last week, I saw him enter there carrying a box with the factory logo. He seemed to be delivering medication. What kind of medication? Irene questioned, her tone professional. I don't know, but I thought it was strange. Our factory is organic. Food. Why would we be supplying medication to a psychiatric clinic? A chill ran down Ted's spine. Each new piece of information seemed to open up more questions than answers. The cell phone vibrated again. Another message from the same number. If you don't come, you'll never know what happened to her, and Lily will never be truly safe. Irene checked her watch. We have 4 hours until midnight. What are we going to do? I'll prepare the car, Ernie said, standing up. And sir, I'm sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want to help fix things. After Ernie left, Ted and Irene remained silent for a few minutes. The coffee between them cooled, untouched. Why did you get involved in this? She finally asked. The Ted I knew would never get into trouble for a strange child. He considered the question for a moment. Maybe I've changed, or maybe I'm tired of building an empire at the cost of destroyed lives, even without knowing it. Irene reached across the table, lightly touching his hand, the first physical contact between them in 3 years. There's still time to do the right thing. Outside the diner, a dark car parked discreetly. Inside it, a man spoke on the phone. Mr. Wallace, they're moving. And they have Olivia's letter. Yes, sir, I understand. No, they won't make it to the church. The night promised to be long and dangerous. Night fell over Willow Creek as Ted, Irene, and Ernie left the diner. The cold March wind carried a dark foreboding as heavy clouds gathered on the horizon, portending more rain. We should stop by the shelter first, Irene suggested, adjusting her coat. I need to make sure Lily is okay. Ted agreed, and soon they were on their way to the St. Francis Municipal Shelter. However, upon arriving, they were greeted by a chaotic scene. Police cars were parked in front of the place, and staff were talking excitedly. What happened? Irene asked Mrs. Gable, the shelter coordinator, a 65-year-old woman she knew from other cases. Oh, Dr. Bloom! The woman seemed distressed. The girl... Lily! She's gone! How do you mean, gone? Ted stepped forward, alarmed. It was during dinner. She asked to go to the restroom and, when they went to look for her, she had disappeared. We found a note in the room where she was staying. Mrs. Gable handed a folded paper to Irene, who opened it with trembling hands. The childish and irregular handwriting read, Sorry, Auntie Irene. Daddy Julian needs me. He always took care of me, even when he was mad. I can't abandon him. She planned this, Irene murmured, her years of experience with child psychology evident in her analysis. Her bond with Julian is more complex than we imagined. But how did a 6-year-old child manage to run away alone? Ted questioned. She didn't run away alone, one of the police officers approached. The security cameras show a man helping her jump over the back fence. It wasn't Julian Rogers, it was an older man wearing a janitor's uniform. Ernie paled. Sir, I think I know who it is. Oswald, the former custodian at the factory, he was a friend of Olivia's. And why didn't you mention this before? Ted exploded. Because he was fired shortly after her disappearance. I thought he had moved out of town. But clearly he didn't move, Irene completed. And now he's helping Julian. Ted's cell Phone vibrated again. Another message from the unknown number. Change of plans. Bring the letter and the flash drive to the old Hawthorne farm, 11 p.m. Lily is safe with me. But if you try anything, you'll never see her again. Hawthorne Farm? Irene frowned. That abandoned property on Old County Road. Exactly where no one would think to look, Ernie commented. It's the perfect hiding place. Ted checked his watch, 9:30 p.m. We have an hour and a half. Ernie, how long to get there? 40 minutes, if it doesn't rain. But, sir, there's something strange. How did Julian know about the letter and the flash drive? A heavy silence fell over the group. Irene was the first to verbalize the obvious. Someone is watching us. As if to confirm her suspicion, a dark car passed slowly by the street, its occupants invisible behind tinted windows. We'll use my car, Irene decided. It's less conspicuous than yours, Ted. And I know some shortcuts to the farm. My grandmother lived near there. On the way to the parking lot, Ernie grabbed Ted's arm. Sir, there's one more thing. About the psychiatric clinic I mentioned. I got some new information. There's a patient there, interned for 5 years. No official record, no visits allowed. You think that? Ted couldn't finish the sentence. The possibility was too disturbing. I don't know. But the timing coincides with Olivia's disappearance. Why can't we just call the cops? Irene asked, already inside the car. Because if Randy is really involved, he has enough influence to quash any investigation, Ted replied bitterly. We need concrete evidence first. The rain began to fall as they left town, turning the dirt road into a treacherous path. Irene drove with concentration while Ted reread Olivia's letter found in the envelope. This doesn't make sense, he murmured. According to the letter, Olivia discovered that the toxic waste was contaminating the groundwater, but all our environmental reports were in order. Reports can be falsified, Ernie commented from the back seat, especially if you have the right connections. Thunder echoed in the distance, and Irene gripped the steering wheel more tightly. We're almost there, but something's bothering me. Why would Julian choose this particular farm? What do you mean? Hawthorne Farm isn't as abandoned as it seems. My grandmother always said that she occasionally saw activity there, especially at night. Trucks going in and out. What kind of trucks? Ted asked, a chill down his spine. Industrial trucks, like the ones from your factory. Before they could process this information, bright headlights appeared in the rearview mirror. A large vehicle was approaching at high speed. They're trying to catch us, Ernie warned, tense. Irene accelerated, but the wet road made maneuvering dangerous. The car behind them was getting closer and closer. There, Ted pointed to a narrow entrance between the trees. It's an old service road. My company used to use it for fence maintenance. Irene turned sharply, entering the almost invisible passage in the darkness. The other vehicle passed straight by, its occupants probably expecting to find them further down the main road. That'll give us a few minutes head start, she said, turning off the headlights and advancing slowly along the muddy path. But now we can't turn back. We don't need to turn back, Ted replied, his eyes fixed on a point through the trees. Look, in the distance, partially hidden by vegetation, the old Hawthorne farmhouse stood like a shadow against the stormy sky, and there was a light in one of the windows. Someone's there, Ernie whispered. Lily, Irene murmured, her professional concern mixing with the maternal instinct that she thought she had buried after the divorce. They parked the car among the trees and walked to the house. The rain was now falling heavily, soaking them completely. As they approached, they heard loud voices coming from inside. It wasn't supposed to bring her here. A male voice they didn't recognize. This place isn't safe. And where else could I go? Julian Rogers' voice, drunk but firm. They're everywhere. We need to tell North the truth before it's too late. Watch what you say. A third voice, older, Oswald, the former custodian. There are big people involved in this. People who wouldn't hesitate to hurt the girl just to shut us up. That's why we need to act now, Julian replied. Olivia trusted me to protect her daughter. I failed. I let the booze control me. I hurt that innocent child, but now I can do the right thing. Through a broken window, they could see Lily, huddled in a corner, hugging an old blanket. Her eyes were wide with fear, but there was also a surprising determination on her little face. We have to go in, Irene whispered. She needs urgent psychological help. Wait, Ernie grabbed her arm. There's someone else in there. Indeed, a fourth figure emerged from the shadows inside the house. A woman. As she approached the illuminated window, Ted felt his blood run cold. That's, he began. Rebecca Wallace, Ernie completed. Randy's wife. A new thunder shook the night, and for a moment the flash of lightning illuminated the entire property. That's when they saw the trucks parked behind the house. Trucks with Ted's factory logo. My God, Irene whispered. What really happens in this place? The answer came in the form of a child's scream inside the house. Lily had seen something through the window that had her panicked. The bad man, she cried. The man who hurt my mom, he's here! Chaos erupted inside the house in a matter of seconds. Julian Rogers grabbed Lily in his arms while Rebecca Wallace retreated into the shadows. Oswald, the former custodian, pulled out a flashlight, pointing it at the windows. They found us. Rebecca's voice trembled. Randy must have followed us. Ted, Irene, and Ernie quickly hid behind some bushes as the beam of light passed over where they were. The rain continued to fall relentlessly, turning the ground into a mud pit. We need to go in, Ted whispered. Now! Wait! Irene held his arm. Look! A car was approaching on the main road, headlights off. When it stopped near the house, two figures got out. Randy Wallace and an unknown man, tall and burly. That's him. Lily's voice sounded from inside the house, filled with terror. The man who took my mom. The tall man stopped suddenly, turning in the direction of the voice. Even in the darkness, it was possible to see his cruel smile. Enough games, Randy announced loudly. Rebecca, dear, come out of there. You're scaring our granddaughter. Granddaughter? Ted muttered, confused. Liar. Lily's voice sounded again. You're not my grandpa. My mom told me about you. You're evil. Rebecca came out of the shadows, approaching the window. Her face was marked by tears. Randy, please, enough is enough. I can't be an accomplice to all this anymore. Accomplice? Randy laughed bitterly. You're just as responsible as I am, dear. Who suggested using the psychiatric clinic to hide? Olivia, who convinced our daughter that she was going crazy when she started investigating the factory. Irene covered her mouth to stifle a gasp of shock. Ted felt like the world was spinning. Olivia was Randy and Rebecca's daughter. His own employee was his partner's daughter. Inside the house, Julian Rogers kept Lily protected behind him. You're monsters. Olivia trusted me, told me everything. Before you had her committed, how can you do this to your own daughter? We did what was necessary, Randy replied coldly. Olivia was about to destroy everything we built, years of work, millions in contracts, all because of a ridiculous environmental conscience. And people's health? Oswald's voice sounded shaky. Cancer cases in the region have tripled in recent years. The Willow Creek River is dead. I saw what you do here on this farm. I saw the drums of toxic waste being buried. See? That's what I'm talking about, Randy sighed theatrically. There's always someone wanting to play the hero. It was like that with Olivia. It's being like that with you. Murillo, take care of it. The tall man, Murillo, began to advance towards the house. That's when Ted couldn't take it anymore. He rose from his hiding place, revealing his presence. Enough! Everyone froze. Randy turned slowly, his expression changing from surprise to something more calculating. Ted, what an unpleasant surprise. I figured you'd show up, but I expected to have more time to clean up this mess. Where's Olivia? Ted demanded, stepping forward. What did you do with her? Me? Nothing. She's very well cared for at St. Gabriel's Clinic. A quiet place with plenty of medication to keep her mind well behaved. Irene emerged from the shadows as well, her professional demeanor mixed with indignation. You had your own daughter committed against her will, falsified psychiatric diagnoses. Dr. Bloom, Randy smiled humorlessly, always the defender of the weak, just like your mother. What was her name again? Oh yes, Candace. What a pity she abandoned the research on the effects of water contamination on the human body. It would have been interesting to see her conclusions. Irene paled. How do you know about my mother? My dear, I know everything about everyone in this town. Why do you think your research project at the university was suddenly cancelled 10 years ago? Why do you think you never managed to prove the correlation between cancer cases and the river water? You monster! Irene stepped forward, but Ted held her back. Inside the house, Lily began to cry. I want my mommy! Where's my mommy? The girl's crying seemed to awaken something in Rebecca. She moved away from her husband, staggering towards the house. I can't take it anymore, Randy. Our daughter, our granddaughter, what have we become? You're not going anywhere. Randy grabbed his wife's arm forcefully. It's cost me too much to keep you quiet all these years. You're not going to ruin everything now. Let go of me. Rebecca struggled. Ted needs to know that it wasn't just the environmental issue. There was more. The drugs, the illegal research. Shut up! Randy pushed her violently. It was the last straw. Julian Rogers ran out of the house with Lily in his arms, while Oswald tried to block the entrance. Murillo advanced towards him, but Ernie, emerging from the shadows, knocked him down with a well-aimed blow. Run! Ernie shouted. Take the girl away! Ted and Irene ran to help Julian, but Randy was faster. He pulled something from his pocket, a remote control. One more step and I'll blow it all up, he threatened. You think these toxic drums are the only secret of this farm? There's enough material here to turn the whole region into a chemical wasteland. Everyone froze. The rain continued to fall, mingling with Lily's tears and the blood that trickled from Ernie's cut eyebrow after his fight with Murillo. You've gone crazy, Ted murmured. All these years. I trusted you. And that was your greatest weakness, Randy smiled. Always so concerned with your organic production, with your image as a conscious businessman. You never realized the true potential of our business. Do you know how much the research we do here is worth? The components we develop? What research? Irene asked, her professional tone trying to keep the situation under control. Let's just say we've discovered how to develop certain compounds, substances that can alter human behavior. The clinic has been very useful for our tests. Rebecca sobbed. Our own daughter. You used our daughter as a guinea pig. The revelation hit everyone like lightning. Lily hugged Julian's neck even tighter, who protected her as best he could. The question now, Randy continued, is what we're going to do with you. You have too much evidence. You know too much. You're not going to hurt anyone else. Oswald's voice sounded determined. The former custodian had stealthily approached Randy. Not after today. In a quick movement, Oswald grabbed Randy's arm, trying to take the remote control. In the ensuing struggle, Rebecca managed to break free from her husband and ran towards the group. The clinic! She shouted. Take Lily there! Olivia is in room 237. I can open the door. I have the key. Just let me do the right thing at least once. Rebecca, you idiot! Randy struggled, trying to get rid of Oswald. Murillo, get them. But Murillo was down, knocked out by another blow from Ernie. The rain was now torrential, turning the ground into a real mudslide. Julian ran with Lily towards Irene's car, followed by Ted. Let's go! Ted shouted to Irene, who seemed paralyzed watching the fight between Oswald and Randy. We can't leave them, she protested. I'll take care of them. Ernie assured. Take the girl. Find Olivia. Rebecca managed to wrest herself away from her husband and ran towards them, handing a set of keys to Irene. Third floor, east wing, she instructed quickly. Quick, before... A deafening noise cut through the night. Randy had managed to activate something on his remote control. One of the facilities in the back of the farm exploded, illuminating the night sky. That's just the beginning, he shouted. I'm going to destroy everything, all the evidence. Now, Ernie roared. Go! Ted practically pushed Irene into the car. Julian was already in the back seat with Lily. Rebecca ran to help Oswald, who was still fighting with Randy. The car sped off into the stormy night, leaving behind the chaos of the farm. In the back seat, Lily finally verbalized the question that was stuck in her throat. Are we really going to see my mommy? Irene, driving as fast as the muddy road allowed, adjusted the rearview mirror to look at the girl. We are, honey. We're going to bring your mum back. But everyone in the car knew that the night was far from over, and that the darkest secrets of St. Gabriel's Clinic were yet to be revealed. St. Gabriel's Clinic stood like a dark fortress on the outskirts of Willow Creek. The three-story building, built in a colonial style, was surrounded by high walls and security cameras. In the guardhouse at the entrance, 2 security guards watched the monitors attentively. How are we going to get in? Ted asked, as Irene parked the car at a safe distance, protected by the shadows of the trees. Rebecca gave me this. Irene showed the set of keys and an access card. And there's more. She whispered something before handing it over. Said we should look for Dr. Eleanor Price on the 3rd floor. Apparently, she's an ally. In the back seat, Lily slept in Julian's lap, exhausted after all the emotions of the night. The man, who hours before seemed like a monster in Ted's eyes, now showed a surprising tenderness as he stroked the girl's hair. She never stopped talking about her mother. Julian murmured, his voice choked. Even so little when Olivia disappeared. She always kept hoping, and I failed to protect her properly. You did what you could, Irene replied softly, her psychology training noting the signs of deep guilt in the man. In your circumstances, with your limitations, it doesn't justify hitting her, he interrupted, tears streaming down his bearded face. The booze turned me into something I'm not. Olivia trusted me to take care of her most precious treasure, and I... You can redeem yourself now, Ted interjected, by helping us rescue her. A distant explosion made everyone jump. In the direction of Hawthorne Farm, a flash briefly illuminated the night sky. My God, Ernie and the others, Irene murmured. We can't help them now, Ted replied, although his voice betrayed his concern. We need to focus on Olivia. If Randy finds out we're here. You're right, Irene took a deep breath, entering her professional mode. We have to be quick and discreet. Julian, you stay in the car with Lily. If something goes wrong, I won't run, he assured. Not this time. Ted and Irene got out of the car, sheltering from the rain that was still falling. They approached the side entrance of the clinic, where Rebecca had indicated that there would be less surveillance. The access card worked on the first try, allowing them to enter through a service door. The corridor was dark and silent, smelling of hospital disinfectant. This way, Irene whispered, guiding them towards an emergency staircase. Rebecca said the cameras on this side are disabled for maintenance. They quickly climbed to the 3rd floor. The silence was disturbing, broken only by the distant sound of footsteps and muffled voices. East wing, Ted murmured, consulting the signage. Room 237. Suddenly a door opened. A woman in a white coat came out in a hurry, almost bumping into them. She was a woman of about 60 years old, grey hair tied in a severe bun. "Who are—" she began, but stopped when she saw Rebecca's card in Irene's hands. "Ah, you've come for Olivia." Dr. Price, Irene ventured. The doctor nodded quickly. Rebecca warned me you were coming. Come on, quick. We don't have much time. They followed her down the dimly lit corridor. Dr. Eleanor Price spoke in hurried whispers. I've been trying for years to gather evidence against Randy. What he does here isn't just keeping Olivia prisoner. He uses the clinic to test experimental substances, drugs that affect behavior, memory. How have you managed to keep this a secret for so long? Ted questioned, horrified. Fear, threats, and a lot of money involved. She stopped in front of a door. Here, but I need to warn you. Olivia is different. Years of forced medication have affected her mind. She has moments of lucidity, but... The doctor unlocked the door. The room was small and austere, with a single barred window. Sitting in a chair, staring blankly at the wall, was a woman of about 35 years old. Her dark hair, identical to Lily's, was dull and unkempt. Olivia? Irene called softly, approaching carefully. The woman turned slowly. Her eyes, although clouded by medication, still carried that determination that Ted had recognized in her daughter. Do I know you? She asked, her voice hoarse from disuse. I'm Ted North, Olivia. You worked at my factory. Remember, something flashed in her eyes. Ted, the documents. Did you see the documents I left? Yes, Olivia, we found everything, and we found Lily, too. Upon hearing her daughter's name, Olivia stood up abruptly. Lily, where is she? Is she all right? Julian, did Julian take care of her? She's here, Irene intervened with her softest professional voice. In the car, with Julian. She's safe. Tears began to run down Olivia's face. My girl, how long have they kept me here? 5 years, Dr. Price replied with sorrow, but now we need to get you out of here. Randy! A siren began to blare, interrupting her. Red emergency lights began to flash in the corridor. No. The doctor ran to the door. He's here. Randy must have triggered the emergency protocol. How did he get here so fast? Ted asked, alarmed. There's a private airstrip in the back of the clinic, Dr. Price explained quickly. He must have used the company helicopter. We need to get Olivia out of here now. Not without the evidence, Olivia spoke, her voice gaining strength. In the basement, there's a laboratory. All the records of the experiments are there, years of documentation. We don't have time, Irene protested. There has to be time, Olivia insisted. You can't let him keep doing this to other people. What he tested on me, he's testing on other patients too. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor. Male voices approached. Through the back stairs, Dr. Price indicated. I'll distract them. But be quick. Ted supported Olivia, who was still weak, while Irene checked the corridor. They managed to reach the service stairs without being seen. The lab is 2 levels down, Olivia instructed, her legs trembling with the effort of descending the steps. There's a door with biometric control, but Dr. Price told me the emergency code. A crash above them made them stop. The stairwell door had been violently opened. Search every floor, Randy's voice echoed. They can't leave here with her. Irene guided them out of the stairs on the first basement level. The corridor was even darker than the upper ones, with several numbered doors. This way, Olivia indicated, her breathing labored. The last door on the right. They reached a security door with an electronic panel. Olivia, with trembling fingers, typed a sequence of numbers. The door opened with a hiss, revealing a modern and frighteningly well-equipped laboratory. On the walls, shelves filled with jars of colored substances. On a central table, several computers displayed graphs and data. My God, Ted murmured, looking around. What is all this? Randy's real business, Olivia replied bitterly. He uses the waste from the factory to develop experimental compounds. Drugs that can control behavior, erase memories. That's what he tested on me when I discovered the truth. Irene quickly began to collect documents and take photos with her cell phone. This is inhumane. How have you managed to hide something of this magnitude? Because no one looks for people who, officially, don't exist, Olivia explained. Patients, without a record, homeless people, people that no one will miss. A noise at the door alerted them. Someone was typing the code outside. Quick! Ted began looking for an alternative exit. There must be another. The door opened. Randy entered, followed by 2 armed security guards. His face was bruised, probably from the fight with Oswald at the farm. What a touching scene, he smiled cruelly. The family finally reunited. All that's missing is little Lily to complete. The picture. It's over, Randy. Ted stepped forward. We have all the evidence, your experiments, the environmental contamination. Evidence, Randy laughed. You really think you're going to leave here with anything? This place is about to have a regrettable accident. A fire, perhaps, so sad. All the patients and staff evacuated in time, except for some intruders who unfortunately got trapped. In the basement, he raised another remote control, similar to the one at the farm. But before he could press it, a voice sounded from the door. Not this time, Dad. Rebecca was standing in the doorway, bruised but determined. And to everyone's shock, Ernie was by her side. The laboratory in the basement of St. Gabriel's Clinic had turned into a silent battlefield. Randy stared at his wife and Ernie with a mixture of surprise and fury, while his guards kept their weapons pointed at the group. How? He began, but Rebecca interrupted him. Oswald is fine, in case you're wondering. We managed to put out the fire at the farm. Before it reached the main deposits, he's with the environmental police now, showing them where you buried the toxic drums. You idiot! Randy advanced towards his wife, but Ernie placed himself in front of her. Enough, Mr. Wallace. You're not going to hurt anyone else. Rebecca took the opportunity to continue. All these years, convincing me that I was doing what was necessary to protect our family, that Olivia was sick, that she needed help. But the only one who was sick was me, for believing your lies. Olivia, still supported by Ted, looked at her mother with a mixture of grief and compassion. Why, Mom? Why did you let him do this to me? Because I was afraid, Rebecca replied, tears streaming down her face. Afraid of him, afraid of losing everything we had built. When you started investigating the factory, he convinced me that you were having a psychotic episode, that you needed treatment. And you believed him. Olivia's voice trembled with emotion. I believed him at first, but then I started to realize that the medications were different from normal, that the treatments didn't make sense. When I finally understood what was really happening, he threatened to do the same to Lily if I tried to help you. Randy let out a bitter laugh. And now, what do you hope to achieve with this pathetic rebellion? Do you really think you can stop me? I've built an empire. I have connections you can't even imagine. It's not just the environmental police who are on their way, Ernie informed calmly. The district attorney has also been notified. All the evidence of your illegal experiments, the falsified reports, the records of missing patients, everything is being forwarded to the authorities at this moment. Impossible. All the files are protected, encrypted. Not all of them. Dr. Price appeared in the doorway, holding a flash drive. I've been copying data for months. Every experiment, every irregular test, every ethical violation, all documented. Randy looked around like a cornered animal. His guards were beginning to show nervousness, realizing that the situation was spiraling out of control. I can still end it all. He raised the remote control. One press of a button and this place will turn into a chemical hell. Dad, a child's voice sounded from the doorway. Lily was there, with Julian right behind her. Lily, no! Olivia tried to run to her daughter, but her legs faltered. The girl, however, showed surprising courage, her eyes so much like her mother's fixed on Randy. "The man in the car explained everything to me," she said, pointing to Ernie. "You hurt my mom because she wanted to do the right thing, just like Daddy Julian sometimes hurt me because he was sick from the booze." Julian sobbed at the girl's words. Randy, for his part, seemed disconcerted by the simplicity of the child's analysis. "You don't understand anything, you little brat. I built all of this. Every penny your mother had came from me, and she wanted to destroy everything because of a few miserable, contaminated people." "The miserable, contaminated people are people," Irene interjected, her voice full of professional indignation. "Entire families affected by your crimes. Children with cancer, elderly with respiratory problems. Collateral damage." Randy shrugged. "Progress has its price." "Progress?" Ted stepped forward, his voice trembling with rage. "You turned my company, which was supposed to produce healthy food, into a front for your sick experiments. Used my name, my reputation. You were always an idealistic idiot, Ted. Do you really think you can build an empire just selling organic lettuce? The real money is here." He gestured to the laboratory. "In the drugs we develop, in the experimental treatments. Treatments you tested on your own daughter," Rebecca accused. "Our girl, you drugged her for 5 years." Olivia finally managed to balance herself. Her eyes, once clouded by medication, now shone with a frightening clarity. "You're not my father anymore," she declared. "You lost that right the moment you chose your experiments above your own family." "Family?" Randy laughed bitterly. "Family is a weakness. Look at you all. A traitorous daughter, a cowardly wife, a bastard granddaughter. You're all expendable." He pressed a button on the control. Alarms began to sound throughout the building, and a chemical smell permeated the environment. "You have 2 minutes before the toxic fumes make this place uninhabitable," he announced with a cruel smile. "Who knows, maybe then you'll understand the true power of the science you despise so much." The guards, realizing the danger, were the first to flee. Dr. Price quickly began to guide everyone to the emergency exit. "Quick! The containment protocol will seal all exits in 90 seconds. Ernie and Julian helped Olivia, who was still weak, while Irene picked up Lily. Rebecca tried one last time to reach her husband. "Randy, please, come with us. We can still fix this." "Fix it?" he cackled. "There's nothing to fix. This is my legacy, my masterpiece." The toxic vapor began to make the air unbreathable. Ted pulled Rebecca towards the exit. "He's made his choice. We need to get out of here." The group ran through the corridors of the basement, which were now filled with a greenish fog. The chemical smell was getting stronger and stronger, making their eyes burn. "The emergency stairs," Dr. Price indicated. "Hurry!" Behind them, they could hear Randy's hysterical laughter echoing through the corridors, mixed with the sound of the alarms. They managed to reach the stairs seconds before the containment doors began to close. They climbed as fast as they could, carrying Olivia, who could barely remain conscious. On the ground floor, they found chaos. Employees and patients were being evacuated in a hurry, while sirens of patrol cars could be heard approaching. They finally reached the parking lot, where they could breathe fresh air again. Lily immediately ran to hug her mother, who fell to her knees crying. "My girl, my beautiful girl." The emotional reunion was interrupted by a deafening sound. Coming from the basement of the clinic, an explosion made the ground shake. "My God," Rebecca murmured. "He really is going to destroy everything." "Not everything," Dr. Price held up the flash drive. "The evidence is safe, and there's more. I activated the special containment protocol before leaving. The entire basement is isolated now. If Randy didn't get out..." She didn't need to complete the sentence. Everyone understood that the man had chosen his fate. Patrol. Cars from the environmental police and the fire department began to arrive. Oswald was in one of them, accompanied by officers who immediately began to isolate the area. Rebecca watched the movement with a mixture of sadness and relief. It's over. It's really over. No, Olivia replied, still hugging her daughter. Now we're going to start. We have a lot to rebuild. Irene, in her professional mode, was already organizing emergency psychological care for the evacuated patients. Ted was talking to the officers, explaining everything they had discovered about his company. Julian approached Olivia and Lily timidly. I'm so sorry for everything. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Lily surprised everyone by extending a hand to him. You took care of me, Daddy Julian. In your wrong way, but you took care of me. Now you need to take care of yourself, to get better from the sick of the booze. Tears streamed down the man's face as he squeezed the small hand. In his calloused hands, the night began to clear on the horizon, bringing the first rays of sunlight. But a doubt still hung in the air. What other secrets did that underground laboratory hold? And more importantly, how many other victims of Randy's experiments still needed to be found and helped? The sound of more explosions coming from the basement suggested that some answers might be lost forever in the flames. The days that followed the incident at St. Gabriel's Clinic were a whirlwind of events in Willow Creek. The local press spoke of nothing else. The illegal experiments, the environmental contamination, the business empire built on criminal practices. The name of the Wallace family, once synonymous with respect and power, was now tarnished forever. Olivia was admitted to St. Joseph's Hospital for detoxification and recovery. The years of forced medication had left sequelae that would need time and treatment to overcome. Lily practically moved into the hospital, refusing to leave her mother's side. She only sleeps if I tell her stories, the girl explained, with the wisdom of her 6 years, just like Daddy Julian did when I had a nightmare. Julian, for his part, had accepted help. Encouraged by Irene, he began treatment for alcoholism at a rehabilitation clinic in the state capital. His weekly visits to Lily were supervised, and little by little, a new dynamic began to be established. On a particularly warm afternoon, Ted was in his temporary office. The main factory was closed for investigation. When Rebecca asked to see him, the woman seemed to have aged years in a few days. I found more documents, she said, placing a folder on the table. In Randy's personal safe at home, there are records of other patients. Ted took the folder with trepidation. Upon opening it, he felt his stomach churn. Dozens of files, all with photos attached. People who had passed through the clinic over the years, subjected to Randy's experiments. Good God, he murmured. How many lives has he destroyed? More than 50 documented cases, Rebecca replied, her voice choked. Some files have red asterisks. According to his notes, it means that they didn't survive the tests. Ted closed the folder, unable to continue reading. Why are you showing me this? Because you need to know the extent of what happened in your name, using your company as a front, and because, she hesitated, because there's something you need to see. Rebecca opened the folder to a specific page. The photo showed a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Candace Bloom, she pointed to the name on the file. Irene's mother. Ted felt as if the floor had disappeared beneath his feet. No, yes, she didn't abandon the research on water contamination as everyone thought. Randy silenced her. She was one of the first not to survive. At this moment, a knock on the door interrupted them. It was Ernie, accompanied by Dr. Price. Sorry to interrupt, the former investigator said, but we have a situation. The technicians who are analyzing the underground laboratory found something disturbing. What could be more disturbing than what we've already discovered? Ted asked, exhausted. A second laboratory, Dr. Price replied. Even deeper, even more secret. And there, well, you need to see it personally. The group followed to the clinic, now under court administration. The building was practically empty, except for some technicians and investigators. In the basement, after passing through several security doors, they arrived at an area that seemed intact after the explosions. This way, a technician guided them to a camouflage door. The main laboratory was just the surface. This is Dr. Wallace's true research center. The door opened, revealing a facility that seemed straight out of a science fiction movie. Sophisticated equipment, computer screens showing complex graphs, and on the walls. These are genetic maps, Dr. Price explained, pointing to the images. He wasn't just developing behavioral drugs. He was trying to create something more, something that could alter human DNA. "What for?" Regina asked, horrified. "Control," a weak voice replied from the door. It was Olivia, supported by Irene. Despite medical protests, she had insisted on coming when she learned of the discovery. He wanted to create a way to control people at the most basic level, alter not only behavior, but the very essence of the human being. "How do you know this?" Ted asked. "Because I was his main guinea pig," Olivia replied bitterly. "His own daughter, the perfect test subject. He said it was a privilege, that I was helping the evolution of science." Irene, who had remained strangely silent, approached one of the screens. "This data is from my mother's research, but it's altered, modified." "He stole her work," Regina explained. After she was gone, he used the original research on water contamination as a basis for his genetic experiments. A technician approached running, interrupting the conversation. "Ooh, Dr. Price, we found something in the encrypted files. Dr. Wallace, he had connections with international laboratories. He was selling his findings." "My God," Ted ran his hands over his face. "This is much bigger than we imagined." "It doesn't matter the size," Olivia spoke firmly. "What matters is that it's over, and that we can start to fix what he destroyed." At this moment, Lily ran into the laboratory, having escaped the supervision of the nurse who accompanied her. "Mommy, you can't stay here. The doctor said you're still sick." Olivia smiled, the first time anyone had seen her smile genuinely in years. "It's all right, honey. Mommy just needed to see one thing, to make sure the bad man will never hurt anyone again." The girl looked around curiously. "What is this place?" "A place that's going to become something else," Irene replied, crouching down to be at her level, of her. "Have you thought about turning all this into a treatment center? To help people who have been hurt, like your mum?" Lily's eyes lit up. "Like you help the kids in your office?" "Exactly," Irene smiled, but her eyes were watery. "In memory of my mother, and of everyone who suffered here." Ted watched the scene thoughtfully. His company was practically destroyed, his reputation shaken. But for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was on the right path. "Can I help too?" Lily asked, surprising everyone. "Daddy Julian says we always have to fix what's broken, even when we didn't break it." Rebecca couldn't hold back the tears as she heard the innocent wisdom of her granddaughter. "Yes, honey, we'll all help fix it." But not everyone was convinced that the nightmare had really ended. Ernie, examining some documents in a corner, found something disturbing. "Mr. North," he called discreetly, "there's something here you need to see. About Dr. Wallace's latest project. Something called Project Phoenix." Ted approached to look at the documents, and his blood ran cold. The implications of what he was reading were too frightening to process. "Don't tell the others yet," he whispered. "We need to be sure first." Across the laboratory, Lily played doctor with an abandoned stethoscope, oblivious to the adults' worries. Her innocent laughter echoed through the cold walls of the place, as if trying to exorcise the horrors that had happened there. But what Ted had just discovered suggested that the real horrors might still be to come. A week after the discovery of the secret laboratory, the old St. Gabriel's clinic had turned into a construction site. Under Irene's supervision, the upper floors were being renovated to house the new treatment and recovery center, while specialized teams continued to investigate the underground levels. In his makeshift office on site, Ted examined for the 1,000th time the documents of Project Phoenix, trying to understand the extent of Randy's project. Ernie entered without knocking, carrying more papers. "I got more information," the former investigator said in a low voice, closing the door. "You won't believe what we found. Worse than what we already know?" Ted asked, rubbing his tired eyes. "Much worse. Project Phoenix wasn't just a research project. It was a contingency plan. Randy knew that one day he could be discovered, so he created a kind of insurance." "What kind of insurance?" "He genetically modified some of the drugs he tested on patients, created a kind of biological time bomb. If they don't receive a certain compound regularly, the side effects start to manifest." Ted felt his blood run cold. "How many patients?" "According to the records we found, at least 20, including—" Ernie hesitated. "Olivia," Ted completed, feeling a weight in his chest. "Yes, and there's more. The compound that neutralizes the effects. There's only one formula, and it was on Randy's personal computer, which was destroyed in the explosion," Ted concluded. "Not exactly. We found evidence that he kept a backup somewhere. And more, he had a partner, someone who secretly financed the research." At this moment, a commotion in the corridor caught their attention. Olivia had fainted during her physical therapy session. Ted and Ernie ran to the scene, finding Irene, already administering first aid. "It's the 3rd fainting spell this week," Dr. Price informed, checking Olivia's vital signs. "The tests show increasingly significant changes in her organism." Lily, who was visiting her mother, was crying in Rebecca's arms. "Is Mommy going to be sick again?" The child's innocent question weighed like lead on everyone's heart. Rebecca tried to comfort her granddaughter, but her own eyes were watery. "We need to find that backup," Ted murmured to Ernie, "and we need to find out who Randy's partner is." "I already have some leads," Ernie replied. "The money came through a shell company called Phoenix Investments. The owner is Murilo Sampaio," a weak voice completed. It was Olivia, who had regained consciousness. "I found that out before he had me committed. Murilo wasn't just a henchman. He was the real mastermind behind everything." "The man who was at the farm?" Irene asked, surprised. "Yes, he's a brilliant scientist, but he had his license revoked years ago for conducting unethical experiments. Randy was just the public face of the business. Murilo was the one who actually developed the drugs." Ted and Ernie exchanged worried glances. Murilo had disappeared after the events at the clinic, and the authorities couldn't locate him. "But there's something that no one knows," Olivia continued, her voice growing weaker. "I managed to copy part of the files before being discovered. I hid it in a place that only Lily knows." All eyes turned to the girl, who had stopped crying and now seemed concentrated. "The special place?" she asked her mother. Olivia nodded. "Remember our treasure hunt game? In the place where you kept your secrets," Lily's eyes lit up. "At Daddy Julian's house, under the loose floorboard in the kitchen." "We need to go there," Ted decided. "Ernie, take Rebecca and Lily. I'll stay here with Olivia and—" "No," Olivia interrupted. "I'm going too. I need to be sure." "You're not in a condition to," Dr. Price protested. "We have no choice," Irene intervened. "Time is against us. And besides," she hesitated, "there are more patients showing the same symptoms as Olivia. We need that formula." The group split into 2 cars. In the first, Ernie drove with Rebecca in the passenger seat and Lily in the back seat. In the second, Ted drove with Irene beside him and Olivia lying in the back seat, increasingly debilitated. Julian's shack was on the outskirts of town, in an area that seemed even more deteriorated after the recent rains. Upon arriving, they found the doctor broken. "Someone's been here," Ernie stated, examining the marks on the lock. "Recently," Rebecca added, noting wet footprints on the floor. Lily, however, didn't wait. She ran straight to the kitchen, knowing exactly where to look. Her small fingers found the loose board easily. "Here!" she exclaimed. "Under the floor there's a hole that I used to keep my treasures." Everyone approached as the girl removed the board. In the empty space underneath, there was a small, rusty metal box. Olivia, supported by Irene, smiled weakly. "The music box you got for your birthday." Lily opened the box carefully. Inside, among childish drawings and small trinkets, was a flash drive. "That's it," Olivia confirmed. "All the files from the original project, including the formula of the neutralizing compound." A noise at the front door alerted them. Murilo Sampaio was standing there, pointing something in his hands. "That's mine," he said with a frightening calm. "The work of a lifetime. I'm not going to let you destroy everything." "Work of a lifetime?" Irene stepped forward, furious. "You destroyed lives, used innocent people as guinea pigs." "Sacrifices necessary for the progress of science," Murillo replied. "You don't understand. What we've developed here will revolutionize medicine. Imagine being able to control human behavior at a molecular level, eliminate unwanted tendencies, create a perfect society." "A zombie society," Olivia interrupted. "People without their own will, controlled by your drugs." Murillo smiled. "Interesting you mention that, Olivia. How are you feeling? Have the tremors started yet? The hallucinations?" As if to confirm his words, Olivia staggered, being supported by Irene. "You have about 48 hours before the process becomes irreversible," he continued. "And it's not just you. All the other patients who received the experimental treatment, they all need the neutralizing compound. A compound that only I know how to produce correctly. We have the formula here." Ted raised the flash drive. "An incomplete formula. Olivia only managed to copy part of the files. The crucial element, the final catalyst, is here." He pulled another flash drive from his pocket. "Now, are we going to make a deal?" Regina took a step forward. "Enough with the deals. Enough with the lies. You and Randy, you destroyed my family." "Your family?" Murillo laughed. "Your family destroyed itself, Regina. You chose to remain silent. Randy chose power over love. And Olivia, well, Olivia chose to play the heroine. And you chose the wrong path." A deep voice sounded behind him. Julian Rogers was standing in the doorway, newly arrived from his rehabilitation session. His eyes, once always clouded by alcohol, now showed a frightening clarity. "Daddy Julian!" Lily tried to run to him, but Regina held her back. "Who do you think you are?" Murillo turned to face him. "Someone who has also chosen wrong many times." Julian replied calmly. "Who hurt those he loved thinking he was protecting them. But unlike you, I learned from my mistakes." What happened next was too fast for anyone to prevent. Julian lunged at Murillo, the two falling to the ground in a scuffle. In the midst of the confusion, something escaped from the scientist's hands, rolling to Lily's feet. It was the flash drive with the complete formula. The girl looked at the object, then at her mother, who was shaking more and more, and made a decision that would change the course of the entire story. With surprising speed for her small 6 years, Lily grabbed both flash drives, the one containing the incomplete formula and the one that Murillo had dropped. Without anyone expecting it, the girl ran into the kitchen. "Lily, no!" Murillo tried to get up, but Julian kept him firmly immobilized. The little girl stopped in front of the old stove, her eyes showing an impressive determination. "Leave my mom alone! Leave everyone alone!" Honey. Olivia tried to take a step towards her, but her legs faltered. Irene supported her before she fell. You don't understand, you little brat. Murillo struggled. Years of research, millions in investment. I do understand, Lily replied with wisdom beyond her years. You're just like Daddy Julian when he was sick from the booze, does the wrong thing and hurts others, but doesn't want to admit that he's wrong. Julian sobbed at the girl's words. Regina took advantage of the moment to approach her granddaughter. Honey, give me the flash drives. We're going to fix this. No, Grandma. Lily took a step back. The bad man will continue to hurt people, like he hurt Mommy. At this moment, Olivia had a violent seizure. Irene and Dr. Price rushed to help her, while Ted and Ernie kept Murillo under control, who had managed to break free from Julian. Your mother has less than 2 days, Murillo taunted with a cruel smile. Without the complete formula, she and all the other patients will suffer irreversible consequences. Do you want to be responsible for that little girl? No, Lily screamed, tears streaming down her face. But I also don't want you to hurt anyone else. That's when Irene, still supporting Olivia, had an idea. Lily, listen to me. There's a way. We can copy the files first. That way we guarantee that your mother and the other patients will receive treatment. But we also prevent him from continuing to do harm to other people. The girl hesitated. Do you promise it's going to work, Auntie Irene? I promise, honey. Trust me. Ted quickly grabbed his laptop from his backpack. We can do this right now. Then we destroy the originals. No! Murillo struggled with renewed force, managing to break free. He lunged towards the kitchen but slipped on the wet floor. What happened next seemed to occur in slow motion. In the fall, Murillo hit the old stove, knocking over a pan with oil that was forgotten on it. The hot liquid spread across the floor, creating a barrier between him and the flash drives that Lily was holding. Give me that, you little pest! He tried to get up, slipping again. Lily, come here! Julian called, extending his arms. The girl ran to him, still holding the flash drives. Quickly, Ted connected one of them to the laptop. No! Murillo tried to prevent it, but Ernie held him back. You don't understand. There are security protocols, passwords. Passwords that I know, Regina interjected, surprising everyone. I spent years watching Randy type those codes. I never imagined that one day I would use that knowledge against him, but... She approached the laptop, quickly typing a sequence of characters. The files began to be copied. You traitor, Murillo shouted.
I said that sluta våldshus och dödel. Jag kan inte vänta att göra oss happela. For the snuttas fullbakord the profil that there's we go there what go and the warning got there for the social ilal
Seizure, more violent than the previous one. Dr. Price checked her vital signs with concern. She's getting worse. We need to start treatment soon. The files are almost ready, Ted informed, watching the screen. Then we'll take them straight to the laboratory. Not if I can help it, Murillo murmured. With a sharp movement, he managed to reach something in his pocket. It was a small remote control, similar to the one Randy used. No! Regina recognized the device. It's like the one at the farm. He's going to... There was no time to complete the sentence. Murillo pressed the button and an explosion shook the back of the shack. Everyone was thrown to the ground by the impact. Self-destruction protocol, he laughed through his teeth. I learned from Randy to always have a plan B. Smoke began to enter the kitchen. Ted quickly checked the laptop. The copy was almost complete. We need to get out of here, Ernie shouted, already carrying Olivia in his arms. Julian picked up Lily, following towards the door. Irene and Regina helped Dr. Price, who had hit her head in the fall. The flash drives, Murillo tried. One last time to reach them, but the smoke was getting thicker. It's over, Ted declared, disconnecting the devices. We have the copy. It's finished. The group managed to leave the shack moments before the flames completely consumed the precarious structure. Murillo, in a last desperate attempt, still tried to stop them, but was contained by Julian and Ernie. On the street, neighbors were beginning to gather, some already with hoses trying to control the fire. Sirens could be heard in the distance. "Mommy!" Lily approached Olivia, who was lying on the ground, being attended to by Dr. Price. "Is everything going to be all right now?" Olivia managed to give a weak smile. "Yes, my love, thanks to you." Ted was already on the phone, organizing emergency transport to the hospital. The files were safe on his laptop, and in a few hours, the laboratory could begin producing the neutralizing compound. Irene approached Lily, who was watching the flames consume her former home. "How are you, little one?" The girl thought for a moment before answering. "Sad, but happy too. It's weird, isn't it?" "No, honey, it's normal. Sometimes we need to lose something to gain better things. Like when Daddy Julian lost the bad booze to gain his smile back." Irene felt tears in her eyes. Exactly. Regina, who was listening to the conversation, knelt next to her granddaughter. "You're very special, you know. You have a heart so big, so pure." "Like Mommy's?" Lily asked, hopefully. "Like your mother's," Regina confirmed, hugging the girl. "And it was that heart that saved all of us today." As the ambulance arrived to transport Olivia and police cars took Murillo away, Ted watched the scene with a mixture of relief and concern. The immediate battle was won, but he knew that there was still much work ahead. The laptop in his hands contained not only the formula of the neutralizing compound, but also evidence of a much larger network of illegal experiments. Names of companies, investors, other clandestine laboratories. "What are you thinking about?" Ernie asked, noting his worried expression. "About how a 6-year-old child taught us more about courage and integrity than all the adults involved in this story." Indeed, watching Lily comfort her mother as the paramedics prepared her for transport, it was impossible not to be moved. The little girl, who had been through so much suffering, was now the force that united and healed that unlikely family. But there were still unanswered questions. There were still other patients to save. And somewhere, other laboratories continued to operate. Other scientists like Murillo continued their obscure experiments. The fight wasn't over. In fact, in many ways, it was just beginning. St. Joseph's Hospital in Willow Creek had never experienced such intense activity. For the past 24 hours, a team led by Dr. Price had been working tirelessly in the improvised laboratory, producing the neutralizing compound from the recovered formula. Olivia was interned in the ICU, her condition worsening with each hour. In the corridor, Lily refused to leave, even when Irene tried to convince her to rest a little. "I need to stay here," the girl insisted, hugging her battered teddy bear. "Mommy always stayed by my side when I was sick." Regina, who also didn't leave the hospital, watched her granddaughter with a heavy heart. How hadn't she noticed that child's strength before? How had she allowed so many terrible things to happen? "The first batch of the medicine is ready," Dr. Price announced, leaving the laboratory with an exhausted expression. "We will begin administration in 1 hour as soon as we complete all the safety tests." "And the other patients?" Ted asked. He had spent the entire night helping to organize the logistics of the treatment. "We have already located 18 of the 20 who were subjected to the experiments. They are being brought from various cities in the region. 2 are still missing." At this moment, Julian arrived hurried, carrying a bag. "I brought clean clothes for Lily, and also that tea that Mrs. Zeller makes. They say it helps to calm down." The transformation in the man was visible. 2 weeks of treatment for alcoholism had returned some color to his face, and his eyes, once always red and blurry, now showed a renewed clarity. "Thank you, Julian." Regina took the bag. It was strange how circumstances had brought together such different people. Would you like to help Lily change? She only accepts you or Irene lately. As Julian took the girl to the bathroom, Ernie approached the group with his phone in his hands. Bad news, he announced in a low voice. The police found records of bank transfers. Murillo wasn't alone. There are big shots involved, people who won't want this story to come out. What kind of people? Ted questioned. Businessmen, politicians, people who invested millions in the experiments, hoping to profit from the behavioral drugs when they were ready. A heavy silence fell over the group. Dr. Price was the first to break it. That explains the phone calls I've been receiving, offers to hush up the case, veiled threats. We won't give in, Ted declared firmly. We've allowed this to continue for too long. Irene, who had been watching Lily and Julian through the bathroom glass, turned to the group. There's one more thing we need to consider, she said in a professional tone. The psychological trauma of the patients. It's not enough to treat the physical effects. They're going to need specialized support for a long time. And it's not just the patients, Rebecca added. The families have also been affected. Some didn't even know what had happened to their loved ones. They thought they had been abandoned. The sound of machines beeping in the ICU interrupted the conversation. Olivia was having another seizure. We need to administer the medication. Now! Dr. Price ran into the laboratory. We can't wait any longer. The next hour was a whirlwind of activity. While the medical team prepared the medication, Lily returned from the bathroom and immediately realized that something was wrong. What's happening to Mommy? She asked, her big eyes filled with fear. The doctors are helping her, honey. Irene tried to calm the girl. Remember we talked about the special medicine that was going to make her better? But what if it doesn't work? Tears began to stream down the childish face. What if? It's going to work. Julian knelt in front of her. Your mother is strong, just like you. The first dose of the medication was administered at 3:47 p.m. The waiting room was filled with a palpable tension as everyone awaited some sign of improvement. Lily sat on the floor, taking out her battered backpack. From inside it, she pulled out some papers and crayons. What are you going to draw? Rebecca asked, trying to distract her granddaughter. Our family, the girl replied simply. It's getting big, isn't it? Indeed, observing the figures that Lily drew, it was impossible not to be moved. There they all were, Olivia, Julian, Rebecca, Ted, Irene, Ernie, Dr. Price, each represented with the unique affection and perception of a child. Why are Ted and Auntie Irene holding hands in the drawing? Julian asked, noting the detail. Lily shrugged. They always look at each other when they think nobody's watching, just like on TV. Ted and Irene blushed simultaneously, avoiding each other's gaze. Rebecca couldn't contain a small smile. Her granddaughter was much more observant than they imagined. At 4:30 p.m., Dr. Price came out of the ICU with news. Olivia's vital signs were stabilizing. The medication seemed to be working. A few more hours and we can be sure, she explained. The other patients are also responding well to the treatment. The relief was momentary. Soon after, Ernie received another call that made him pale. They just informed me. They tried to break into the hospital laboratory. Someone wants to destroy the medication samples. What? Ted alarmed. But there's security. It's not just that, Ernie continued. We received a threat. If we don't hand over all the research, all the data, they're going to silence those involved, permanently. My God, Rebecca hugged Lily protectively. We can't back down now, Irene declared. These people have already suffered too much. That's when Lily, who had been quietly listening to the adults' conversation, said something that surprised everyone. Grandpa Randy also started out wanting to help people, right? But he let the money make him bad. The girl's insightful observation had a profound impact on everyone. Rebecca began to cry, remembering the husband who had once been a good man, a dedicated doctor, before getting lost in greed. "How do you know that, honey?" Irene asked gently. "Mommy told me, in bedtime stories, she always said that sometimes good people do bad things when they forget what's really important." Ted approached the girl, crouching down to her level. "And what's really important, Lily?" "Family," she replied without hesitating. "And doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. That's what Daddy Julian taught me after he stopped drinking the water that made him angry." Julian couldn't hold back the tears upon hearing this. For so long, he had considered himself a failure, a monster. And there was that child, seeing in him something that not even he could see. A commotion in the corridor interrupted the moment. More patients were arriving, brought from other cities. Families desperate for news, doctors running with clipboards. "We need more medication," Dr. Price informed, "and more space. This hospital won't hold everyone." "Use my factory," Ted offered. "The building is closed for investigation anyway, but the main laboratory is intact. We can adapt." "It's not safe," Ernie warned. "They've already tried to break in there too." "Then where do we go?" Rebecca asked, worried. That's when Lily, once again, surprised everyone. "Why don't you use Grandma Rebecca's house? It's big, it has a lot of rooms, and the garden is pretty. Sick people need to see pretty things to get better faster." The adults exchanged glances. The Wallace mansion was indeed spacious, and its remote location offered more security. "I don't..." "No," Rebecca hesitated. "That house has so many bad memories." "Then let's make good memories," Lily replied simply. "Mommy always says that we can't let the fear of the dark stop us from turning on the light." Once again, the child's innocent wisdom left everyone speechless. But before they could discuss the idea, a shout came from the ICU. "Doctor, she's waking up!" The ICU of St. Joseph's Hospital turned into a whirlwind of emotions when Olivia finally opened her eyes. Her first reflex was to look for her daughter. Lily? Her voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. "Mommy!" The girl tried to run into the room, but was gently held back by Irene. "Calm down, honey. Let the doctors examine her first, okay?" Dr. Price and her team performed a battery of tests, checking Olivia's vital signs and neurological responses. With each positive result, the tense atmosphere dissipated. "It's impressive," the doctor commented, analyzing the exams. The compound not only neutralized the effects of the experimental drugs, but also seems to be reversing some of the damage caused. Rebecca, who was watching everything through the glass of the ICU, couldn't hold back the tears. My girl. So many years lost. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, they allowed Lily to enter to see her mother. The reunion was emotional. The little girl practically jumped on the bed, hugging Olivia with all the strength her little arms allowed. "Slow down, honey," Olivia smiled weakly, stroking the girl's hair. "Mommy is still a little weak. But you're going to get better, right? Promise?" "I promise, my love. And this time nothing will separate us." Ted was watching the scene from the corridor when Ernie approached with new information. "The transfer of the other patients to the Wallace mansion has already begun. The security team is positioned, and we installed cameras throughout the perimeter." "Great! And what about the threats?" "We identified some of the investors. They are powerful people, sir. Businessmen, politicians, people who won't give up easily." Irene, who had approached to listen to the conversation, intervened. "We need to protect the patients and their families. It's not just the medical treatment, the psychological trauma they suffered." "I've already thought about that," Ted replied. "I'm going to turn my factory into a rehabilitation center, use the entire structure to produce legitimate medications, develop therapies. That will cost a fortune, Ernie warned. Money is the least of our concerns now. I have resources saved. I can sell properties. You won't need to. A weak voice sounded behind them. Olivia was sitting in bed, with Lily still hugging her. In the files we recovered, there's proof of all the illegal transactions. Millions diverted, accounts in tax havens. The money from the experiments, Rebecca completed, approaching her daughter. Randy kept records of everything. We can use that as evidence, Ernie pondered. Force a return of the resources. It's not that simple. Julian, who had been quiet until then, spoke up. These people, they won't hand over the money easily. They'll fight, threaten. Let them come, Lily declared with surprising confidence. Now we're a big family. Big family is stronger. The girl's innocent declaration drew emotional smiles from everyone. It was true. That unlikely group of people had transformed into a family, united by tragic circumstances but strengthened by the love and determination of a child. The following hours were of intense activity. While Olivia recovered quickly, other patients began to show signs of improvement. The Wallace mansion, once a symbol of power and corruption, was transforming into a refuge of healing and hope. Rebecca personally supervised the adaptation of the rooms to receive the patients. Each room was prepared with care, as if trying to compensate for years of silent complicity with her husband's crimes. The sunroom can become a living area, she explained. To Irene, a space for group therapy, perhaps. It's perfect, the psychologist agreed. Patients need a welcoming environment that helps in the process of emotional healing. In Randy's former office, now transformed into a monitoring center, Ernie and his security team maintained constant surveillance. The threats continued to arrive, each more aggressive. They won't give up, he commented to Ted. I just received information about suspicious movements. They are planning something. Then we need to be faster, Ted replied, picking up his phone. I'm going to contact my media contacts. It's time to make everything public. The news of the press conference scheduled for the next day spread quickly through the city. Journalists from all over the state began to arrive, setting up camp in front of the hospital. In the late afternoon, Olivia was authorized to be transferred to the mansion. When the ambulance stopped in front of the house where she had grown up, painful memories threatened to suffocate her. Is everything all right? Irene asked, noticing her hesitation. It's strange, coming back here after everything. Mommy, look! Lily pointed to the garden. Rose, who works in the hospital kitchen, brought a lot of flowers to plant. She said that a pretty garden helps people heal faster. Indeed, several hospital employees had volunteered to help. Some brought flowers, others food, clothes. The news of what had happened moved the entire town. Inside the mansion, the first patients were already settling in. They were people of all ages, all with tragic stories of how they had become involuntary guinea pigs of Randy and Murillo's experiments. That lady over there, Rebecca explained to Ted, pointing to an elderly woman who was knitting in an armchair. She was a university professor. She started investigating the cases of contamination in the river, like Irene's mother. They had her committed, diagnosed with dementia. And that young man, Ted asked, observing a young man who was helping to distribute snacks. Journalist. He was preparing a report about irregularities at the factory. He was kidnapped, subjected to the experiments. The family thought he had fled the country. With each story, the weight of responsibility increased on Ted's shoulders. Even without knowing, his company had been used to cause so much suffering. A scream from Lily interrupted his thoughts. The girl was running through the garden, being chased by other children and grandchildren of the patients who were also recovering there. I've never seen her play like that, Julian commented, watching the scene with watery eyes. She's always been so serious, worried. Children are more resilient than we imagine, Irene replied in her professional tone. When they feel safe, when they have a support network, A family, Olivia completed, approaching in her wheelchair. The peaceful moment was interrupted by Ernie, who came running from the office. "Mr. North, we intercepted a communication. They're going to try to prevent the press conference. They are planning..." The sound of a helicopter cut through the air, making everyone look up at the sky. The setting sun was obscured by 3 aircraft that were quickly approaching the mansion. "Everyone inside!" Ernie shouted. "Now!" As the children were hurried to the safety of the house, Ted noticed something strange on the horizon. More precisely, in the direction of the old St. Gabriel's Clinic, a column of black smoke rose against the orange sky. Someone had set fire to the building. "They're destroying the evidence," he murmured. "But they don't know that we already have everything documented," Olivia completed. "All the files, all the evidence. But there was something else happening. Something that no one yet knew. Something that would turn that night into a milestone in the history of Willow Creek." In the office, Ernie's computer began to beep furiously. A message flashed on the screen. "Project Phoenix activated. Sequence initiated. Time remaining 60 minutes." Chaos erupted in the Wallace mansion when the Project Phoenix alarm began to sound. Ernie and his security team ran between the computers, trying to understand what was happening. "It's some kind of self-destruction program," he explained quickly to Ted. "It's spreading through all systems connected to the clinic and factory network." "But what exactly is it going to destroy?" Irene asked, worried about the patients. It was Olivia who answered, her face pale with concern. "It's not just destruction. It's a reversion. The protocol will nullify the effect of the treatment in all patients who received the neutralizing compound." "My God!" Rebecca hugged Lily protectively. "How is that possible?" "Nanochips," Dr. Price explained, approaching with some exams in hand. "We found microscopic traces in the patient's organisms. Randy and Murillo not only drugged them, they implanted control devices." The revelation fell like a bomb on the group. Ted immediately began to organize an evacuation, but Olivia interrupted him. "There's no time. In 1 hour, all patients will return to their previous state, or worse." "There has to be a way," Julian protested, watching the children playing in the garden, oblivious to the danger. "We can't let them win." Lily, who had been quiet until then, pulled at Irene's shirt. "Auntie Irene, remember the story that Mommy told about Grandpa's special safe?" All eyes turned to the girl. Olivia frowned, trying to understand what her daughter was talking about. "The safe in the house laboratory," she exclaimed suddenly. "Dad always kept an independent system, isolated from all networks. He said it was his personal insurance." "The laboratory was sealed after Randy's arrest," Rebecca informed, "but I have the key, and I know the safe's password." There was no time for discussion. While Ernie and his team tried to slow down Project Phoenix, the group descended to the basement of the mansion, where Randy's private laboratory was located. The place was exactly as he had left it. Sophisticated equipment covered by a thin layer of dust, notes scattered on the counters, and, in the back, a steel door with an electronic panel. Rebecca approached the panel with trembling hands. "The password. He changed it regularly, but always using the same base. Important dates, family names." "My birthday!" Lily exclaimed. "Grandpa always remembered, even after jailing Mummy, sent presents every year." The information hit Rebecca like lightning. Even in his madness, in his obsession, Randy never forgot his granddaughter. "Maybe..." She typed in Lily's birth date. The panel flashed red. "No." Rebecca thought for a moment longer. "Wait, he always said that Lily was born on the same day as..." Her fingers flew over the keyboard, typing a new sequence. The panel turned green, and the safe door opened with a hiss. Inside, in addition to documents and flash drives, there was something that caught everyone's attention. a metal briefcase with the symbol of a phoenix engraved on it. The antidote, Olivia murmured. He always kept a way to reverse his experiments, a last resort in case something went wrong. Dr. Price took the briefcase carefully, examining its contents. These are programmable nanochips. They can overwrite those that were implanted in the patients. How much time do we have? Ted asked, consulting his watch. 40 minutes, Ernie replied over the communicator. And the system is starting to affect the patients. Some are already showing symptoms. Indeed, cries of pain began to echo through the hallways of the mansion. Project Phoenix was accelerating. We need a way to implant the new nanochips in all patients simultaneously, Dr. Price thought aloud. Something that... The fountain! Lily shouted suddenly. The fountain in the garden! Everyone likes to be near it because the water is cool. Once again, the simplicity of the childish logic impressed everyone. The fountain in the Wallace garden was a natural meeting point for patients, especially on warm afternoons. We can use the irrigation system, Rebecca completed, understanding. The plan. Dad was always obsessed with the purity of the water, installed special filters, dispersion systems. That can be adapted to distribute the nanochips, Dr. Price agreed. But we need energy, much more than the normal network can provide. The factory, Ted grabbed his phone. I can redirect all the energy here. It will cause a blackout in the city, but... Do it, Olivia ordered. We have no choice. The next 20 minutes were of frenetic activity. While Dr. Price and her team prepared the nanochips, Ernie coordinated the installation of equipment at the fountain. Ted mobilized his contacts at the electrical company, and Irene organized the patients. Everyone to the garden, she announced. Let's have a special celebration. Julian, understanding the plan, began distributing glasses of water from the fountain. They say this water is blessed, that it brings luck and health. The patients, even those who were already beginning to feel the effects of Project Phoenix, were drawn to the garden. The crystal-clear water of the fountain, now carrying the programmed nanochips, circulated among them. 10 minutes, Ernie warned over the communicator. That's when the helicopters returned. 3 black aircraft hovering over the mansion, their propellers stirring the water of the fountain. Don't let them interrupt the process, Ted shouted to his security team. But it wasn't the helicopters that caused the real problem. A group of armed men invaded the property from the back, advancing towards the power panel. They're going to cut the power, Rebecca realized, desperate. They won't, Julian declared with surprising firmness. Along with some stronger patients, he began to pile up furniture, creating a barricade. 5 minutes. Lily watched everything from Olivia's lap, her small fingers squeezing her mother's hand. It's going to work, right? Like in the stories? It will, my love, Olivia promised, although her own body was already beginning to tremble with the return of the effects of the experimental drugs. 3 minutes! The men reached the barricade. Sounds of struggle, screams, the electrical system flickered dangerously. 2 minutes! One of the helicopters landed in the garden, its side door opening. From inside, a figure emerged that no one expected to see. It's over, Murillo Sampaio's voice sounded across the garden. Even in handcuffs, he was smiling. You lost. 1 minute. But there was something Murillo didn't know, something that no one, except Lily, had noticed. The water in the fountain wasn't just carrying the nanochips programmed by Dr. Price. It was carrying something else. Something that Randy had left behind, a final gift for his granddaughter. 30 seconds. Lily stood up, staggering to the edge of the fountain. Her fingers touched the water, and for a moment, everyone swore they saw the water shimmer. 10 seconds! The girl turned to Murillo, her eyes showing an ancient wisdom. Grandpa said clean water always beats dirty water. 5 seconds! Project Phoenix reached its peak. All the patients fell to their knees, including Olivia. Murillo laughed. 0. And then something extraordinary happened. The water in the fountain began to glow with a bluish luminescence, pulsing as if it had a life of its own. Murillo took a step back, his expression of triumph turning into confusion. "Impossible," he murmured. "Project Phoenix is irreversible." But it was happening. The patients who had fallen, including Olivia, began to get up. Their expressions of pain were replaced by astonishment and then, gradually, by relief. Rebecca was the first to understand. Running to the laboratory, she returned with one of Randy's diaries. "Here!" she exclaimed, flipping through the pages frantically. His last project wasn't about control or destruction. It was about healing. Dr. Price took the diary, her professional eyes scanning the notes. He developed a system of molecular purification, using the water itself as a conductor. The nanochips in the fountain aren't just neutralizing Project Phoenix. They're completely removing all artificial components from the patient's organisms. "But why?" Murillo demanded, still surrounded by security guards. "Why would Randy develop something like that?" It was Lily who answered, her childish voice carrying a surprising certainty, "Because he regretted it. Just like Daddy Julian regretted drinking the water that made him angry." The simplicity of the observation hit everyone like a revelation. Rebecca found more notes, this time letters addressed to her granddaughter that were never delivered. "My dear Lily," she read aloud, tears streaming down her face. "When you read this, I hope you are able to understand. Sometimes we make wrong choices thinking they are right. We hurt people we love, thinking it's for their own good. But there is always a way back, always a chance to fix our mistakes." Olivia approached her mother, her legs now firm, her body free of the drugs that had imprisoned her for so long. "He left the cure the whole time," she murmured. "Hidden where no one would think to look, in a fountain that would only work when touched by an innocent child." "The water recognizes purity," Dr. Price explained, analyzing the results on her tablet. "The special nanochips are only activated by a specific pattern of bioelectricity, the kind we only find in children under 7 years old." Ted, who was watching the helicopters move away after the arrest of their occupants, turned to the group. "So it's over? It's really over?" "No," Irene replied, her professional tone mixed with emotion. "Now it begins. We have people to heal, not only physically but emotionally, families to reconnect, and a town to clean up," Julian added, looking at the horizon where Ted's old factory stood. "That river needs to be what it was." The following days were of intense activity. The Wallace Mansion officially became the Willow Creek Recovery and Environmental Research Center. Ted donated his factory to the project, and with the help of the resources recovered from the illegal investors, began an ambitious program to clean up the Willow Creek River. Olivia took over the direction of the research department, using her knowledge to develop natural methods of water purification. Rebecca, seeking redemption, transformed Randy's old laboratory into an educational center, where children from the region learned about environmental preservation. Irene expanded her clinic, now focusing not only on children, but on entire families. Julian, after completing his treatment, became one of the most respected advisors to the rehabilitation program. Ernie continued in security, but now he was protecting something much more valuable than money or secrets. He was protecting the hope that that place represented for so many people. On a particularly significant afternoon, 6 months after the events of the fountain, a small ceremony was held in the garden of the mansion. Lily, turning 7, was blowing out the candles on her cake, surrounded by her family, not only by blood, but by heart. "Make a wish, honey," Olivia whispered, hugging her daughter. Lily closed her eyes for a moment, then smiled. "I don't need to, Mommy. I already have everything I wanted." Indeed, looking around, it was impossible not to be moved by the transformation. The garden, once a symbol of power and ostentation, now overflowed with life and joy. Children played on the grass, recovered patients talked in the shade of the trees, families gathered for impromptu picnics. The fountain, now known as the Fountain of Renewal, continued to shine softly, its crystal-clear waters attracting people from all over the region. Scientific studies tried to explain its healing properties, but as Lily liked to say, some things we don't need to understand, we just need to believe. Ted and Irene, who had rekindled their relationship during the dramatic events, announced during the party that they were expecting a baby. The news was received with joy, especially by Lily, who was already planning to be the best big sister in the world. "See?" she nudged Julian, who was moved by the announcement. "Big family is stronger indeed." Rebecca, watching her granddaughter, with pride, found among the birthday presents a last letter from Randy, which had been recently discovered in his personal safe. "My dear granddaughter," she read in private to Lily, "when you read this, you will probably be too old for the magic of the fountain. But I hope you are never too old to believe in second chances. It was you, even without knowing it, who showed me that there is always a way back from the darkness. Your smile, your innocence, made me realize all my mistakes. The cure I left in the fountain is not only for sick bodies, but for wounded souls. Use it wisely, and always remember, true power is not in controlling others, but in helping them to free themselves." Lily listened to the letter in silence, then hugged her grandmother. "Grandpa wasn't bad, right? He was just lost." "Like we all were at some point," Rebecca replied, kissing her granddaughter's forehead. The party continued until nightfall. When the first stars began to appear, Lily asked everyone to gather around the fountain. "I want to show you something," she announced seriously. She dipped her little fingers in the water, and as in that first time, the fountain began to shine. But now, something new happened. Small colored lights began to dance over the surface of the water, creating magical shapes and patterns. "How?" Dr. Price began to question, but Irene gently interrupted her. "Some questions don't need answers," she smiled, her hand resting on her belly that was beginning to grow. "Some magic exists only to remind us that the world is more beautiful when seen through the eyes of a child." Olivia hugged her daughter from behind, and soon everyone was holding hands around the fountain, watching the spectacle of lights. At that moment, they were no longer a group of people whom destiny had brought together by chance. They were a family, united not by blood, but by something much stronger, the power of love, of redemption, and of the unwavering belief of a little girl that everyone deserves a second chance. And so, under the starry sky of Willow Creek, the story that began with tears and despair ended with smiles and hope. The Willow Creek River began to show signs of life again. The city thrived with environmental projects, and the Wallace Mansion, once a symbol of corrupted power, had become a beacon of light for all who needed healing, physical or spiritual. In the center of everything, a fountain continued to shine, guarding in its waters not only the power of healing, but the living proof that the love of a child can transform even the most hardened hearts. And Lily, now 7 years old, carried with her the certainty that there is no darkness so deep that it cannot be overcome by the light of hope.